Welcome back to the Born Blondes podcast. I'm Aubrey.
And I seen a fuzzy. I'm Randa.
I feel like we started the last one off with a fuzzy.
There's fuzzies everywhere in this house. I'm sure it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. We're still recovering from last week.
Yep.
R.I.P. Sammie.
R.I.P. Sammie. That poor fucking chinchilla, man. If you guys caught last week's podcast, how you doing? Did you enjoy it? Because we sure in the hell did.
we sure did.
Sure. That was golden.
But this week, we are going to do something different, yet the Same, because it's another Murder
Monday.
This week, we are flying to Arkansas. Yep.
And disclaimer, this is our very first unsolved case.
And it's a doozy.
And it's long as shit. I know said that last time with Robert Hansen, and we were done within like 45 minutes.
Read really quick though. But
yeah, these paragraphs are much longer. There's a lot more information because it is unsolved.
Yes.
So bear with us. Again, as always, self-care. If you are not comfortable listening to these kinds of stories, please skip it.
We'll see you next week.
Not hurt our feelings. We will see you next week. Yeah. Let's get into it.
Let's do this.
You can go first.
You don't want to read first again? You don't want to stumble across some skin slippage?
Listen. Oh, God, I can't. That fucking name, man. That word.
All right. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders was a term used by the contemporary press to describe a series of 4 unsolved murders and similar violent crimes that were committed in the Texarkana region of the United States in early 1946. The Texarkana region is made up of the twin cities of Texarkana, Arkansas, and Texarkana, Texas. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders were attributed to an alleged unknown perpetrator nicknamed the Phantom of Texarkana, the Phantom Killer, or the Phantom Slayer, who was credited for attacking 8 people in a 10-week period, with 5 of the attacks being fatal. These events would inspire many works, including the film The Town That Dreaded Sundown, released in 1976. This film would be the reason for the subsequent myth and folklore around the murders.
Dun, dun, dun.
Murder.
Also, 2 things I want to point out just from that first paragraph.
All right. Slayer
is terrifying.
It is. It's not the first time we've come across a No.
It is.
It is. Yeah, it is.
The last we had the crackhead killer.
The butcher baker.
And then the giggling granny.
Yeah.
Are 3 so far. That's crazy. Slayer is terrifying. Also, I wanted to point out that in this paragraph, it said that it inspired the film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. It also correlates to the movie The Strangers.
I didn't know about that.
Because I thought I told you this while researching. I could have sworn I had.
Maybe I forgot.
The mask that kind of homeboy wears. So... yeah, that little tidbit for you. Now, I'm not 100% sure if it actually was inspired by this specific thing. I just remembered that there's a scary movie that homeboy wears a cloth mask.
All right.
So moving on. The attacks occurred during the night on weekends, starting February 2nd and ending May 3rd, mainly targeting couples. The first 3 attacks occurred on quiet stretches of road in Texas known as Lovers Lanes. The 4th attack occurred at an isolated farmhouse in Arkansas. The murders were reported both nationally and internationally by several newspapers and Life magazines. This caused a state of panic in Texarkana throughout the summer months. I am out of breath. Bear the fuck with me. Holy dicks. It's rough out here. I just want to say, setting up all of this equipment to film the podcast in my living room and then taking it all down, it really fucking wears you out. Let's just say
it's our weekly workout.
That's why I'm so out of breath. Every time we start filming, we're like, all right, we need a good 3 minutes to catch our breath. Clearly that wasn't enough for me. Anyway, Police patrolled the streets of the neighborhoods starting at dusk, and residents sold stores out of guns, ammunition, locks, and many other protective devices. Many investigations into the murders happened at the city, county, state, and federal levels.
Everybody's involved.
They all fucking broke out.
Everybody
getting crunk.
Okay then. The main suspect in the case was career criminal Youell Swinney, who had a history of counterfeiting and car theft. Swinney was suspected mainly due to statements made by his wife Peggy. Way to go, Peggy.
Such an old name.
Plus criminal.
Way to go, Peggy.
Way to go, Peggy. Plus circumstantial evidence, but his wife refused to testify against him, so prosecutors decided not to pursue the murder charges. Swinney was convicted of car theft in 1947, and because he was a repeat offender, he was sentenced to life in prison. However, Swinney was released from prison in 1973 following a habeas corpus proceeding.
Habeas?
What did I say?
I think Did you say habeas?
I thought I said habeas corpus.
What the fuck is habeas?
Oh.
Is it supposed to be like heinous?
No.
Did I misspell something?
No, it's habeas corpus. Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Swinney was the only major suspect in the Texarkana Moonlight murder case, and two of the lead investigators, Max Tackett and Tillman Johnson, believed that Swinney was guilty of the murders for the remainder of their lives. A book written by Dr. James Presley, who is the nephew of Sheriff William Hardy Bill Presley, in 2014, titled The Phantom Killer, Unlocking the Mystery of Texarkana Serial Murders. Oh my God, I can't read today. Concluded that Swinney is the culprit. Anyway, habeas corpus.
Because I'm pretty sure the first couple of paragraphs here, you want to know what's funny? You want to know about that?
What? I literally asked you, do you want to include what habeas corpus is?
Listen.
And you're like, nah, it'll be fine.
Clearly don't listen to me while we're researching.
The term habeas corpus is the collection. Nope. That's...
I would say that is 100% different spelling than what's here on the paper, for sure. Anyway.
A legal process that allows a person to challenge the legality of their detention or imprisonment, ensuring that they can be brought before a court to determine if their confinement is lawful.
Okay. Suspect. Following okay. All right then. Whatever.
Okay.
The Texarkana Moonlight Murders consisted of 4 violent attacks. Carditing?
You can't read either.
Dude. We suck at this.
I'm going to blame it on the weather. The weather has been bipolar and it's fucking with my head.
Facts. In Michigan, it was 70 fucking degrees one day. Warm, nice, pristine. And then the next day it snowed. And then since then, it's been like 60s and then 30s.
It's been a 40s, roller coaster.
And then 30s. And then today it's fucking snowing. And
a roller coaster.
Yeah. So I'm going to repeat.
And I want to get off this ride.
Me too. I don't like roller coasters anyway. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders consisted of 4 violent attacks targeting heterosexual couples in isolated locations. The attacks took place at
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. We're good.
Yeah.
We got this. The attacks mozzarella. The attacks took place at interview. Who laughs like that? Fuck. Okay.
Interval.
The attacks. What? Yes, took place at intervals of 3 to 4 weeks. Investigators originally speculated that all of the attacks were committed by the same unidentified serial killer, but over time, there have been differing opinions by officials on whether or not the first or fourth attacks were committed by the same perpetrator.
Perpetrator.
I can say perpetrator, no problem, but fucking intervals is sending me through a loop. Intervals. Listen, I never claimed to be good at this. It's just something we like to do for fun.
Literally. This is so much fun, we can't read.
I get so excited when I can't read. This is a great time.
Yes.
Yes. Listen.
The first attack took place on February 22nd around 11:45 p.m. on a Friday.
On a Friday.
On a Friday.
Going up
On a Tuesday.
Another fuzzy. Sorry. It's like the squirrel that is still on my tree outside. You're welcome.
I got a story for you.
Okay.
Anyway, 25-year-old Jimmy Hollis and his 19-year-old girlfriend, yes, you heard that correctly, Mary Gianna,
Probably Jenna.
Whatever. Lowry had parked the car on a
Larry. Larey. Your face.
Mary
You look so defeated.
Jenna Larry
Larry Lowry
had parked on the car on a secluded area of Richmond Road just outside the Texarkana, Texas.
It's gonna be my favorite.
After seeing a movie together about 10 minutes later, a man wearing a white cloth mask resembling a pillowcase with eye holes cut out appeared at the driver's side door where Hollis was sitting. A stone and a stone's throw away and shone a flashlight into the window. After Hollis tried to explain to the man that he had the wrong person, the man responded, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Tag, you're it.
This is fucking great.
This is going swimmingly.
I love it. You gotta laugh about it. That's the funny part.
Laugh through the pain.
All right. Hello.
Stretch this out. Take a couple breaths. We got this.
The wheezy laugh gets me every time. Wheezy up, baby. Also, we were watching the episode that just came out today on the day of recording this, and it's our check-in episode, and Aubrey looks at the transcripts because we were doing something, and it goes music, laughter, and the music was me wheezing as I was laughing, and I was like, I really am wheezy ass baby. Just call me wheezy baby. I love it so much. All right. Sorry. Moving on. The Phantom Killer ordered the couple out of the car and told Hollis to take your goddamn britches. Take your goddamn britches over there. No. Take off your goddamn britches. Britches.
You said it so confidently.
I did. You have to. Say it with your full chest. Come on now.
Say it with your whole goddamn chest.
Take your goddamn britches over there. Nope, just take them off. No, he said take off your goddamn britches. With doing so, the Phantom Killer struck Hollis twice in the head with a firearm. Later, Larry told investigators she initially thought Hollis had been shot because the noise was so loud. However, what she actually heard was the sound of Hollis's skull fracturing.
That just gave me chills all the way down my spine.
Could you imagine that? Oh, I spit it. Could you imagine that noise? That's awful.
No.
Larry thought the assailant wanted to rob them, so she showed the Phantom Killer Hollis's wallet to prove they had no money. After which they had no money because they just went to the movie theater. Come on now.
Can you imagine though?
No.
This chick is like, here, let me take your wallet. See, we don't have any money.
Well, that was the thing back then.
I know.
The guys definitely paid for. Yeah. Anyway. She showed the Phantom Killer Hollis's wallet to prove they had no money, after which she was struck with a blunt object. The Phantom Killer ordered Larry to stand up and run. Larry originally tried to flee towards the ditch, but was told to run up the road instead.
Oh, boy.
Ay, ay, ay.
All right.
Poor girl.
Literally.
She gets the head no money. Stop it. You look nasty, you. Okay, you dumb fuck.
Let me clear my throat. Da, 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 da. This is just gonna be unhinged, I guess.
Flag. Bruh. I'm tapping out. My face hurts.
Lanny. God damn it.
I can't.
I just want to apologize
This
now.
episode
It's not going to get any better. I'm sorry.
It's so okay. I just want to take a brief pause. Every time we film a true crime story, we are so non-serious about it.
I know. We should be.
And it's so, I don't want people to get the wrong idea that we just think this is funny, haha,
It's
this is
not.
a joke. But when you fuck up words like this, come on, how do you not laugh about that?
We gotta remember, you gotta laugh through the pain.
You gotta laugh through the trauma.
Literally.
Or to get past the trauma. But
one of the two.
again, we do not think this is a
I don't
joke.
suggest laughing at people as they punch you in the face. That's only going to fuel the fire.
Literally.
Laugh after the fact.
Like years down the road. No, but
when they're not around.
We don't, what's the word?
Condone murder?
Well, but I was going to say we don't, like these
We don't
victims.
think it's a joke.
No, these victims, like we feel like it's very tragic. It's very sad. We know that it's not funny, but I just feel like I need to like clarify that because I don't want people to be like, these two bitches just be laughing every
right.
time. We laugh in all of our videos. That's the
Yes.
point of our friendship is
We make fun of each other
have a great
a
time,
lot.
even when it's a serious time. So
Yes.
again, Lainey,
Larry. Don't you dare take a drink of that. Larry ran up to a car parked off the road but found it empty. At which time the Phantom Killer caught up to her and asked her why she was running. Larry tried to explain to him that he told her to run, to which he replied that she is a liar, before knocking her to the ground and sexually assaulting her with the barrel of his gun.
I beg your finest fucking pardon.
Surprised by a set of headlights in the distance, the attacker fled the scene. After the assault, Larry ran half a mile up the road to a nearby house, where she woke up the owners and called the police. During all of this, Hollis had regained consciousness and flagged down a passing vehicle who so called the police? Down a passing vehicle who so called the police. They so called the police?
Yeah, man. Totally.
Also
Listen, whoever-
called the police?
I don't know who is our researcher slash
It's not me.
typer,
It's also not me.
but they fucking suck. It's me.
Blame it on the tech guy. Within 30 minutes of the phone call, Bowie County Sheriff W.H. Bill Presley and 3 other officers arrived at the scene, but the Phantom Killer was already gone. Larry was hospitalized overnight with a minor head wound, and Hollis was hospitalized for several days to recover from multiple skull fractures.
That's insane.
I can't imagine.
That I'm sorry, but being sexually assaulted with the barrel of a gun
No,
is
thank you.
horrific.
Uh-huh.
That poor, I can't. Hollis and Larry gave different descriptions of their attacker. Larry claimed that she could see under the mask and suggested he was a light-skinned African-American male in his early 20s. Hollis claimed the attacker was a tanned white man around 30 years old, but could not fully see the man's features because he was blinded by a flashlight. But both agreed the attacker was around 6 foot tall. That's a large guy. Tall guy. Law enforcement repeatedly questioned Larry's descriptions of the attacker and believed that both her and Hollis knew their attacker and was covering for him. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If I knew who the fuck it was, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the way in which of how she... Hello. Especially the way she was... Assaulted.
Yes.
I feel like even if I knew this person, like, you going down, motherfucker.
Absolutely.
You're going to treat me that way and do those things to me like you're going down.
29-year-old Navy
facts.
veteran Richard Griffin and his 17-year-old girlfriend, Polly Ann Moore, were last seen around 10 p.m. Saturday, March 23rd, where they had dinner with Eleanor, Griffin's sister. Despite the age difference, the families were okay with the relationship. On the morning of Sunday, March 24th, Richard and Polly were found dead in Griffin's 1941 Oldsmobile by a passing vehicle. The driver saw Griffin's parked car on a lover's lane 100 yards south of U.S. Highway 67 West in Bowie County. Griffin was found kneeling on the floor, leaning against the front seat, his head resting on his crossed hands with his pants around his ankles, and his pockets were turned inside out. Griffin had 2 bullet wounds in the back of his head, resulting in his death. Investigators believed that this tactic of pulling down the male victim's pants was used to disable the male so he could kill him easier, removing him as a threat so he could have more time with the female. Moore was found sprawled face down in the back seat with 2 bullet wounds to the back of the head. Evidence suggests that Moore was placed there after being killed on a blanket outside of the car. I almost had it all the way. Almost.
You did.
There.
Okay. The similarities between these 2 cases started a citywide investigation, including the Bowie County Sheriff's Office, both the Texas side and Texarkana, Arkansas City Police, the Miller County Sheriff's Office, and the Texas Department of Public Safety. Texas Rangers and the FBI.
Good gravy.
So lots of authorities or whatever officials were in on this.
A lot of government peoples.
Yes. Griffin and Moore's case was contaminated from the beginning because of multiple reasons. It rained between the murder and discovery of the bodies. News of the murder spread across Texarkana, which caused crowds of curious spectators to accidentally contaminate the scene, which was not taped off by police right away. You had one job.
Literally.
Footprints were found everywhere, and the keys to the Oldsmobile were discovered several feet away from the car, possibly kicked by a spectator and found by a child whose father turned them in to the police. Bullet casings were found at the scene, which investigators believed came from a .32 caliber weapon.
And then you wonder why it wasn't solved.
Literally. You had one fucking job. I feel like that's the first thing you do at a crime scene, is you tape it off.
Yes. Griffin's car was removed from the scene in the afternoon of March 24th and taken to the Texarkana Police Department on the Arkansas side because they had better fingerprinting equipment. During the effort to remove the car, it was touched by many hands, which contaminated any evidence. This led many people to wonder what the point was, because even if the killer's prints were on the car, they probably would have been wiped away. The sheriff's office questioned 50 to 60 people, which led to about 100 false leads and dead ends. Eventually, the lack of evidence forced the sheriff's department to post a $500 reward for any information, but none came in.
That's insane. Did we?
Yeah, we got through that one already. We weren't laughing.
No, you missed an entire section.
Well, shit.
Let's backtrack a second.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine. Griffin and Moore's bodies were examined by a local doctor who determined Moore's body did not show any signs of sexual assault. He believed that rape was prevented because he noted Moore was wearing a sanitary pad. In an attempt to get Moore's body back to her family so they could have a funeral and bury her, they failed to do the pathology report, along with never removing the bullets from her skull because the police thought it wasn't necessary to put her body through any more trauma. Griffin's family went to claim his body. At the same time, Texas Ranger Jimmy Gear showed up to assist in the investigation. Gear was appalled by all the mistakes the police had made. He refused to release Griffin's body until the bullets were removed from his head and collected as evidence. The bullets ended up being the only clue that they could use from the crime scene. Ballistic tests confirm that the weapon was a .32 caliber semi-automatic handgun, most likely a Colt.
Sorry about that, guys. I thought I did good, and, well, I fucked it up.
That's okay. We got
Shocker,
there.
right?
We're doing the best we can.
I'm trying.
We're doing the best we can.
All right. On Saturday, April 13th, 1946, 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker had a musical performance with her jazz band playing the saxophone at the VFW, or Veteran of Foreign Wars, Club, where they performed for veterans returning home from World War II.
So sweet.
Her old classmate, 17-year-old Paul Martin, put in a lot of effort to take Betty on a group date to a midnight showing at a local theater. Paul went to the performance. I thought I skipped a freaking line. My bad. Paul went to the performance to pick her up for the date, but the show went until 1:30 in the morning.
Jesus.
By the time they had packed everything up, it was 2 a.m., so they missed the midnight showing. Some friends were having a slumber party that both Betty and Paul were invited to, but before they could join, Betty had to return home and drop off her expensive saxophone in order to keep it safe.
Fair.
Which she did after every gig before hanging out with friends. But this time she didn't do that.
Oh, no.
Ruh-roh.
Early Sunday morning at around 5 o'clock, a local resident heard gunshots coming from the direction of Spring Lake Park, but was not alarmed, instead annoyed because he thought someone was doing target practice at a very early hour.
At a very ridiculous hour.
Facts. Half an hour later, another resident saw an older car drive away from the park, but because of the distance and it being too dark, he could not make out the license plate or any other details of the car. At 6:30 a.m., a passing motorist spotted the body of Paul Martin laying on the side of North Park Road. Sheriff Presley responded to the scene and immediately roped off the area. Good job.
You go, Glen Coco. Way to do your literal job.
Literally. Paul had been shot 4 times through the nose, through the back of the ribs, in his right hand, and through the back of his neck. They found blood on a fence across the street from where his body was found, suggesting that Martin was shot there first and stumbled across the road where he eventually died. That is so sad.
It really is.
So sad.
When Betty's parents woke up the next morning, they realized that Betty had never come home and started contacting friends to find her.
So sad.
They learned that she was last seen with Paul Martin leaving the VFW. The parents were notified that Martin was found dead. Careful, that ice maker will get you.
It always will.
Always.
God damn.
The parents were notified that Martin was found dead, so they assumed the worst and contacted the police. After a detailed search of the park was performed, Betty was found almost 2 miles from Martin's body at 11:30 a.m. She was found near a group of trees, lying on her back, fully clothed, with gunshot wounds to the chest and face. Jesus. Sheriff Presley and Texas Ranger Manuel T. Gonzalez said that the examinations of the bodies indicated that both Betty and Paul fought back against the killer. Pathology reports were performed on Paul and Betty. Betty had traces of semen found in her, which made investigators believe the motivation for these killings were sexual and sadistic in nature. Why did you spell semen like demon?
Listen, we're laughing at the way I spelled semen.
Like demon.
S-E-M-O-N.
That's why I stopped. Not because of the word semen, but because I said, huh?
The fuck?
Semen, like demon.
My apologies.
Demon seed.
The FBI arrived at the scene and took charge of collecting forensic evidence as they combed through the park. The car was found about 3 miles from Betty's body and 1.5 miles from Paul's body, parked outside of Spring Lake Park with the keys still in the ignition, and was then tested for fingerprints. Plasters of possible tire tracks belonging to the murderer were made, and footprints were noted and mapped. FBI ballistics confirmed the bullets came from the same gun that killed Richard Griffin and Polly Ann Moore. All the items in Paul's car were meticulously cataloged and collected.
Investigators noted that Betty's saxophone was missing. Police believed if they could find the saxophone, it would lead them to the killer, so they shared the serial numbers with pawn shops across all 4 states and alerted them to look out for it. 6 months later, on October 24th, her saxophone was found in the underbrush near the place where her body was found. A piece of black hat cord with elastic in the center was found and thought to have belonged to the murderer. Investigators believed if they could figure out what brand the hat was, they might be able to track down where it was sold and narrow down where the murderer had purchased it. One piece of evidence that was collected but didn't become public knowledge right away was found by Sheriff Presley. It was an address book that belonged to Paul. Presley noted where it was found and collected it. Investigators thought keeping it quiet could crack the case. Fingerprints from possible suspects were collected and sent to the FBI to cross-check against the latest crime scene, but there were no matches. I don't know. Why are you side-eyeing me?
Because I feel like they just did this all wrong. But this was the 1940s, so...
That's true.
You can't really... Anyway. News of the second double murder spread, alerting the public that a serial killer was on the loose. The Texarkana Gazette named the serial killer the Phantom Killer due to his ability to ambush and take his victims by surprise and afterward disappearing without a trace. Shock of the murders led to panic and paranoia, as it should. Guns and ammunition, door and window locks sold out of every store overnight. Home alarm systems did not exist yet in the 1940s. Excuse me. So residents created their own by rigging pots and pans with strings. I feel like that's pretty smart.
For whatever reason, gives me Home Alone vibes.
It does. It really does. Curfews were also put in place to keep people off the streets at night. People set up decoy cars along Lovers Lane roads with hopes of baiting the killer. Teenagers also set up their own versions of decoys, which frustrated law enforcement. With the curfew, there were no potential victims on the street, so if the murderer wanted to act out his urges, he would find himself in a position where he would need to go into someone's house to do so. Leading up to our next paragraph.
Oh boy. On Friday, May 3rd, 1946, shortly before 9 p.m., 37-year-old Virgil Starks and his wife, 36-year-old Katie, were in their home on a 500-acre farm almost 10 miles northeast of Texarkana. Virgil had just sat down in his armchair with a newspaper to relax after a long, hard week, while Katie was in the bedroom getting ready for bed. Their house was different and rarer than others in this area due to the fact that it had electricity and also a telephone. Windows were closed, but the shades were left open. Katie heard a noise outside and attempted to alert Virgil, instead hearing 2 pops come from the living room. When she rushed into the living room, she found Virgil dead from gunshots to the head. Knowing the Phantom was on the loose, she ran to the phone to call for help, but was shot in the face twice through the same window. Oh. Surprisingly, the shots were not fatal, but Katie was unable to see due to the amount of blood covering her eyes. She heard someone trying to come in through the back door, so she escaped through the front door while she ran across the street to her sister and brother-in-law's house. After realizing nobody was home, she ran to the neighbor Al?
Hey?
AV? Oh, that's right. They only gave us initials. She ran to the neighbor AV Prater's house. She told him Virgil was dead and collapsed. Prater shot a rifle into the air to summon neighbor Elmer Taylor. What? And the two of them took Katie to the hospital. What? The summon?
The summoning of the neighbor by two shots in the air is just, it's kind of like funny.
Very 40s.
Yeah. Katie was questioned in the operating room by Miller County's Sheriff W.E. Davis. Miller County Law Enforcement, Arkansas Police, State Police, FBI, and Texas Rangers all reported to the crime scene and saw that the killer broke in through the kitchen door after shooting Virgil and Katie. He then walked through the house before leaving through the front door. A footprint from the killer's shoe was found in the kitchen, and a unique-looking flashlight was found outside. I almost just said flashlight.
Not that.
I'm so sorry. Investigators deployed bloodhounds, and they followed the murderers' trail for about 200 yards. The trail went cold at the highway near a set of tire tracks. Investigators took casts of the tire tracks. Homeboy got into a car, and he said, bye-bye.
Literally. People driving in the area at the time of Stark's murder, as well as several men found in the vicinity, were detained for questioning, but nobody was charged. The reward for information rose to $7,025 on the night of Stark's murder, and the following 10 days would pass $10,000, which in today's money, that would be close to $161,061.
That's insane. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. There was some hesitation from investigators linking Stark's murder to the other crimes because the weapon used was a .22 caliber semi-automatic rifle. By November 1948, authorities no longer considered the Stark's murder to be connected to the two double murders.
The fear was significant enough to spread to Hope, Lufkin, Magnolia, and as far as Oklahoma City, where there were sales spikes for guns and axes. After 3 weeks without a similar murder, Texarkana fears began to reside. Concerns lasted throughout the summer, but subsided after 3 months passed. So no murders happened for 3 months after that.
At least.
True.
Or at least that we know of.
Yeah. Is it Gonzalez?
Gonzalez.
It's spelled differently than Gonzalez, but
I wanted to read this and had to double check myself. Gonzalez stated that he and his officers were dealing with a shrewd criminal who had left no stone unturned to conceal his identity and activities. He also stated that the murder was a canning individual who would go to all lengths to avoid apprehension. Presley stated at the Starks murder scene, "This killer is the luckiest person I have ever known. No one sees him, hears him in time, or can identify him in any way."
I mean, he's not wrong. Dr. Anthony LaPalla was a psychiatrist at the Federal Correctional Institution in Texarkana. That's a mouthful.
Literally.
He believed the killer was planning to continue unexpected attacks similar to that of the Starkses. He also believed all 5 murders were committed by the same person who was somewhere between his mid-30s and 50 years old and motivated by a strong sex drive and sadism. LaPella stated that a person who committed such crimes was intelligent, clever, and shrewd. According to LaPalla's theories, the killer was not afraid of police activity, but was aware of the increased difficulty of attacking people on vacant roads, and that's why he shifted his target to a farmhouse. He believed the killer led a normal life, was unlikely to be a veteran, and was not necessarily a resident, even though he had knowledge of the area. The last thing he stated was that the attack showed evidence of deep planning. The killer works alone and tells no one of his crimes. And would either shift his crimes to a distant location or overcome the desire to assault and kill people.
Could you imagine just, oh, no, I don't want to kill people anymore?
Yeah.
I ain't buying it.
He's like, I've done my deed, even though it was a shitty fucking deed.
Literally.
Don't do that.
Please.
Don't do that deed.
Throughout the investigation, almost 400 suspects were investigated. There were 9 people who gave false confessions, saying that they were the Phantom Killer, but their statements did not line up with the facts. No suspects were apprehended in the Hollis and Larry case. In the Griffin and Moore case, over 200 people were questioned. 3 suspects were taken into custody for bloody Suspects were taken into custody for bloody clothing. Two were released after satisfying explanations, and the third was held for further investigation, but later was cleared. Possible suspects included Youell Swinney, Henry Booker, Doody Tennison, Ralph Baumann, Saxophone peddler, a German prisoner of war, an unknown hitchhiker, a Atoka County suspect, Sammie,
R.I.P. Sammie.
Earl McSpadden. But to this day, nobody has been charged with the murders, leaving this a cold case. Also,
Dun, dun, dun.
we could have gotten into each suspect that they had and why or why not.
They were involved.
Why
Yeah.
they didn't get charged or why they were cleared. We already had a lot, so we didn't do all that, but
Correct. Feel free to Google
Yes.
if you would like to. We will put those names down in the description.
Yes.
So you can search them up if you feel obliged.
if you want to do your own research.
Yes. Or if
We have
you really
a lot
ask
of
us to do it, we could always do a part 2.
That's true.
Yeah.
But we only have so much time, and we had a lot of information to squeeze in that time frame. So
Right.
thanks for joining.
Yeah, that is. I would like to give my final thoughts if that's
Absolutely.
fine. My thoughts on this is because it was the 1940s, obviously they didn't have the technology and
Right.
stuff that we have today. So I feel like that definitely played a lot into it, but also all of the officers and federal agents like negligence of taping off like certain crime scenes and stuff getting wiped away.
They kind of dropped the ball.
100%. And I feel like, unfortunately, like it definitely happens with these older cases,
Right.
which really fucking
Unfortunately,
sucks.
it happens today too.
It does. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Sometimes they just can't solve it, and that's just how it is. But it sucks for these families not being able to have the closure or
Right.
know exactly what happens, or even having the perpetrator because
Have
they
a
could
peace
strike
of
again.
mind because you know that the perp is locked up and
And is not
serving time
Yeah.
for doing exactly what they did.
I feel like that would just be, yes, I would be heartbroken and like devastated. But I feel like knowing that this person is away and cannot hurt someone
Right.
else, like I would
You
feel
got
a little
justice.
bit better with that aspect, but it still fucking sucks.
Right.
So yeah, these older cases are and this one being the first unsolved one was really,
I was going to say it was a
interesting for
doozy.
us. I don't think we really, did we know, we knew that going into it.
We knew it
Yeah.
going into it, but I don't think we expected
That much
the
information.
amount of information.
And it may not seem like a lot because I mean we got through it in not that
Right.
long. Hello.
There was
But-
a lot more information we could have thrown at you, though.
But we definitely chose to keep it out, to keep it a little bit more condensed and a little bit more concise. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, with that being said, we are so happy. So happy. I was going to say, we're so happy that you are continuing to join us. And
I was going to
support
say,
us.
what are we happy about?
I don't know.
I
am not
so
happy that it's
confused.
snowing. I can tell you that much.
I'm not either.
However, we love you guys.
I'm gonna
we
go cuddle
appreciate
under
your
a blanket.
support. That part. What are we doing next week? Oh yeah,
What are we? Oh,
it
that's
is
right.
the who's like most likely to.
Yes.
So it's gonna be a little like fun one. But yeah,
A light one.
do all the things and all the things. You know what to do. We love you. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.